Welcome to The Hollywood Outsider, which is always available at thehollywoodoutsider.com, an award-winning weekly entertainment podcast. And on this episode, we are reflecting on the 20th anniversary of the initial release of The Lord of the Rings before we discuss and bid adieu to 2021. Let's get on with the show. My name's Aaron Peterson. Joining me today are my fellow host, John Davenport.
Hey, Aaron, how the are you doing?
You had one job.
You had one job.
Unpaid job.
Not drop an F-bomb. That's literally, you had one job. Amanda Sink.
Hello.
I see what you did. You added one. Troy Heinrichs.
Yeah.
I can't even. I'm just like, this is the best Christmas present ever. Justin's back.
Oh, I do miss Justin.
Oh my goodness.
Amanda, what was with the 3 hellos? Is that like a new thing you're going to start doing?
I just figured I'd test it out.
So every year you add another one, and then we'll just get to where there's 18 hellos before you start. Hello.
I was mostly going for how many hosts we have, but
that means you left out the audience, the most important people of all.
Well, I've only been doing 2 hellos, so maybe one of them is for John, one of them's for you, Aaron, and then the other's for the audience.
Guys, I swear, if I gotta bleep this whole thing, I'm gonna be pissed. Gonna be pissed. Is 2021 over yet? Jesus.
You can tell by our tone and timbre that we're getting close to it.
We are ready. Now, this is, I should mention, this is gonna be the last, we'll have a Spider-Man No Way Home episode, but that's it. So this is the last official.
Wait, we're not going to talk about The Matrix and Spider-Man together?
Oh, we got to talk about Matrix.
No, Matrix comes out in like a week and a half. I'm taking time off.
Out on the 22nd.
If you want to do it yourself, you can have a great time. I'm taking a break. Do what you want. Here's what happens. Neo's dead. I don't know how he comes back, but he's dead. That's what
Even
happens.
Keanu doesn't know how he comes back.
Exactly. He didn't, yeah. So we saw that interview. He doesn't know how he came back. But yeah, we'll have a Spider-Man episode coming up shortly after this one, and then that's it until January. Woo!
Because there's so much in December to go see.
Did you guys hear that, speaking of Spider-Man, that people were buying scalp tickets for hundreds of dollars to go see Spider-Man?
I saw they were on sale. I didn't know people were actually dumb enough to purchase them.
Allegedly.
Like on StubHub or something? Ticketmaster?
Online.
eBay.
In
whatever.
today's day and age, didn't we have a whole discussion on how like it's nearly impossible to not be able to get a ticket to a movie these days?
I'm sure we've had that
Except for
discussion.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, but apparently Spider-Man is special.
Is it just because people need to see it like opening night? Like what? I don't understand the concept.
Probably.
Mm-hmm. That's why.
To be fair, my theaters only had like one showing for the first couple of days until things got wildly out of hand. And now they have, I'm pretty sure, like 12 showings, and I'm not actually exaggerating. And they're pretty full in most of them.
That's always what they do on big release. I wish people understood
That's
this
right.
sometimes.
Yeah.
What they'll do is they only put up one showing, garners interest and demand, because then I can't get in. And then they'll add more as they get closer to the release date, and they'll keep adding them until there's really no more need for them or they have no more screens available, because the whole idea is supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
Also,
why do you
Gucci-
want a PlayStation 5? You don't need it. All the games are still on the PlayStation 4, but you want it. That's all it is.
Or also because PlayStation 4 is like barely cheaper than a PlayStation 5. So that seems silly.
But it looks so much better on a PS5.
It really does. Yeah.
So much better.
Okay, guys, quit bragging. I haven't gotten one.
We do. We've got one. What's up? And actually,
Don't make me drop another F-bomb.
I've got a Series X too, by the way. Thanks to Troy.
I don't care about that.
Thanks to Microsoft. Sent us 2 for free.
Yeah.
That's nice.
No, sent
Yeah, the
him
Series
to.
X actually supposedly looks so much better than the Xbox One X.
You know what? There's something we got to announce real quick. So for over half a decade now, the various hosts of the award-winning, that's us, Hollywood Outsider podcast have been doing an exclusive podcast for Patreon supporters called Bad Movie Night. It originally started off as a podcast which took any movie that was deemed bad by critics or audiences and took another look at them, quickly morphed into a show where at least one of the hosts had to genuinely enjoy the film we were talking about. Otherwise, it really made for a miserable conversation because we all just, hated the movie. So that's what it became. We even close most episodes out with our own positive review of whatever the film discussed is. In other words, a movie that might not be so bad after all. Well, now we're putting some of those episodes out, and Patreon supporters, please hold on. We're not jipping you, I promise. We're putting some of those episodes out into the ether to share with all of you. Beginning December 20th, you can subscribe on your preferred podcast app to the Hollywood Outsider Presents Bad Movie Night. Each month, another episode from our vault will hit your podcast feed on a film we've discussed. These will always be from our vault, meaning Patreon supporters always get the newest and unedited versions, and they definitely get better as the show goes. So if you want immediate access to the entire library of Bad Movie Night episodes, there's like 50 plus episodes already waiting, and they are unedited on Patreon. Just visit patreon.com/The Hollywood Outsider. That's patreon.com/The Hollywood Outsider, and sign up for the $3 or better option. You'll gain immediate access to all of them. Now, I want to point out that they're edited because when it goes on a public feed, that can be used against you in court. So Patreon is where they're unedited. So there's some stuff that's trimmed out of there. So that's coming December 20th. If you want to just check it out, the Hollywood Outsider Presents Bad Movie Night. Look for it then. Oof, that was a mouthful.
That's what she said. Sorry, it took me so long to unmute myself.
Jeez. Why'd you have to say it at all? All right.
Why not?
Let's take a 10-hour stroll to Mordor and talk about Lord of the Rings because it's the 20th anniversary. And if you didn't know, if you're one of the 6 people just got out of your rock or
That got lost on the 10-hour journey when it was 12?
could be, or
But
woke up
sure.
in that bunker that Brendan Fraser was in. What was the name of that movie?
Blast from the Past?
Thank you. Blast from the Past. Yeah. So if you didn't know, Lord of the Rings is a series of 3 epic fantasy adventure films directed by Peter Jackson based on the novel written by J.R.R. Tolkien. The films are subtitled The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and The Return of the King. They follow the adventures of Frodo Baggins and friends as they march on and on and on and on toward Mordor and the fires of Mount Doom to destroy that one ring that rules them all because the Eagles were far too busy to just carry them there. And yes, it's a novel. Just so you know, kids, young people, it wasn't 3 books. It was just 1. They just made it 3 books because people have a hard time reading. This week marks the 20th anniversary of the beginning of one of the ballsiest choices Hollywood has ever made, filming a fantasy trilogy all at once when fantasy like this was not even popular. People don't even remember. It wasn't even popular back then. And make no mistake, you can thank this series for Game of Thrones, The Wheel of Time, The Witcher, numerous other fantasy shows that have been greenlit or movies that you've loved. A lot of that came because of Lord of the Rings. It showed there was an audience for it as long as you did it right. Too long. Fantasy was just fun and family friendly, and it wasn't deep and meaningful. And this really presented a more deeper, meaningful story. All that said, it's been 20 years. We're going to assume you know what the movies are, like what happened and all the details. So we're not going to rehash all that. We're going to talk about the experience, really. So why do you think the series has stuck around with so many people for 20? It's going to be 20 plus years after today. So what about it infused that endurance, you think, Troy?
Well, it's a classic piece of art to begin with, first and foremost. It's like the #1 best-selling novel of this genre over all the years that it has existed. So just that alone, you're going to have instant built-in fan base for the property. And then when you take that and combine it with the magic that was able to be done in order to make these things possible, especially when you think about the history of the films themselves and how they were trying to get made year after year, time after time, and nobody could actually do it successfully. I think that when you see these things on screen, I remember watching the sequence in Fellowship of the Ring when they're trying to escape Weathertop and Frodo's riding with Arwen on the back of the horse and they reach the river. Like the visuals that Peter Jackson was able to conjure up for that specific moment is exactly how I saw that scene taking place in my head when I read the book. Same when they arrive to see Minas Tirith for the first time and you see Minas Tirith and it's beautiful white and the 7 levels and all of that. Like the image of it is just like spot on out of your head. And when a movie can do that, it really means that they've captured some kind of magic. And to be able to do all 3 of these and pull them off as well as they did and just sweep the awards for Return of the King. I mean, yeah, I watched it again just recently when they re-released it in 4K in IMAX. And like I cried like I've never seen the movies before. It was amazing. So good.
And even though I'm happy Return of the King won that Oscar, you know it was like, well, the culmination award. No, bitch, they should have won it for each time. I still think Fellowship is probably my favorite of the three, but
Agreed.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely
Yeah.
not the second one. That one's like nap time for me.
wow. All right.
Well, I mean, the whole thing is a giant battle the entire time, for the most part.
Some,
Or a hike.
yeah.
I was going to say, or in the second one where they're just walking for like 4 hours of runtime.
I'm pretty sure they're walking in all of it. It's a lot of walking. They got little feet.
But every time they walk, you get the dun 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 dun.
It is very
It does
sweeping.
nothing for me.
I know.
I mean, it's just
Yeah,
like
still.
it brings like music. It's like,
Does that motivate
Mm-mm.
you, Troy? When you're out, like
No.
just moving through the mall? Do they have malls still?
dude, if that was my soundtrack as I walk through the mall, that'd be great.
It's just weird, but cool. So, Amanda, you were a little kid when they came out. Did you see them in the theater? Well, you were like probably 10, 9. I don't want to age you, but something like that.
Yeah. I was. And I vaguely remember seeing them in the theaters. I remember more about it being a big deal for other people, like in comparison to even some of the Star Wars movies and the experience from all of that. It just, I don't know, it didn't impact me when I was younger. And as I got older, I realized what a cinematic achievement it really was. And I mean, honestly, when I saw the movies, I had no idea that there even were books related to the films. So it was just very new to me, and probably because of how young I was. But as I've gotten older, I really have comprehended the complexity of the story, the true impact around it, and the breadth of the relationships, which is really what I find special, is the friendship. Like, it's really just about how one small thing can make the biggest impact, and how, just being there and supporting your friend, you could literally be the one to save the world. Samwise,
Yeah, it's really.
who was really the star of the film.
It's really his story.
Yeah, I
It's about
love
time
him.
we came clean about that. And then his friend spiraled into addiction, and you saved him.
It's a dark path.
It is, sure is. I like your one small thing. I get it.
I did not
'Cause they're
mean for it
hobbits.
to be an insult.
She was channeling her younger child when she was hobbit-sized herself.
Yeah, for sure.
John, do you have any other different theories on why it's been 20 years and people still rave about this?
For me, I think it's one of those movies that really marks what we have come to realize fantasy can be. For the longest time, fantasy movies that were taken seriously or taken to the degree of this movie were few and far between. I mean, look, I'm thinking about Excalibur or maybe Dragonlance, maybe. But there weren't really a lot of fantasy or quote unquote fantasy movies that really had an air of being taken seriously, or people who weren't just looking for any sort of combination of things to throw at it to be like, let's have the hobbits ride velociraptors and they transform, because that is the perfect trifecta of things that will get people to go to the movies. This is something where it's more the art of it, and the story was something much more important, and people really resonated with the idea of being able to go see something that they love and adore and see it be taken as seriously as they did when they enjoyed it. So I think that has the most to do with it right there.
It has a lot to do with, for me, it is the relationships, right, with the people. It's just a masterfully cast film. Every character, I think, really, really lands. The fact that they made Gollum work, which if you read the book, I just felt like that wasn't possible based on where the technology was. Because, 20 years ago, it was not as good as it is now. And motion capture was really not a thing at that time. So, really, motion capture came about and, exploded because of this film, because of how well Peter Jackson and Weta, I've heard it both ways, how they made that work, and Andy Serkis's performance and how he fully realized that performance. All those things combine for this wonderful, glorious production. And they also used a lot of practical effects, so it all blended well. And it just, I just feel like it's, I used to think it was, it's just because we all saw it 20 years ago, and, people saw it with their kids, or people saw it as kids, and it's just one of those things where they remember it as a family memory or something. But you mentioned this movie, this series, everyone has a story about it when they saw it, or one of them that they saw, or what they got from it because they were a huge fan. And if someone else brings it up, everyone can understand it. I think was it last week or last episode we were talking about how kind of cheap it is to use, it's like a CW show as a reference for a TV show. But if you throw Lord of the Rings, it's like a Lord of the Rings. It kind of does have a very specific picture in your head. It works for a lot of people. Like it's become a small kind of geek speak where you get what the other person's saying, that you totally, this thing is like a Lord of the Rings thing. Yeah, I get that, and, now if you say it's like The Hobbit, that means something else. Totally different. Not good. But Lord of the Rings.
Unless you're comparing it to the cartoon version, which wasn't bad.
Yeah, which nobody is. Nobody is. And, it kind of amazes me the fact that this is one of the very, very few times this has ever happened where they shot films back to back. They've done it a couple times. Mission Impossible just did it, so it's been done. Never, I don't believe, have they ever done 3 movies at once. Huge gamble. $300 million. And if the first one flops, they all flop, right? Like that's the deal. So why do you think it is that more studios haven't taken a similar chance on filming everything at once, just for cohesion, for continuity, and so they don't lose actors to their projects and that sort of thing? Like why do you think more studios haven't done that when this was really the first gamble of its kind and it paid off huge?
It's a great question, but I think mostly because majority of the stories that take place, they're intentionally spanning them out over time. And so you kind of want the characters to age, which I think is most perfectly done with Harry Potter, where the characters are aging with the actors themselves. With Lord of the Rings, you are talking about one short-term trip, if you will. Like this is just them trying to get to this one thing done. We've got one objective, but it takes 3 movies to get it done and to share all of the story that they have within it. And that is not a very common storytelling method, is to be able to effectively stretch out one story among 3 films that are extremely long. Most people would feel like, okay, you're wasting my time. I'm watching nothing. This is dragging on. I think that's one of the things that Lord of the Rings has an achievement in, is being able to tell us a story in 12 hours or whatever it is, Troy, and not make us feel entirely bored. Like we feel like we're still getting something out of it and this is still worth our time. And it doesn't feel like, okay, we should have been wrapped up with this, 8 days ago or whatever. It's just different.
I don't think that studios aren't taking a chance on it. I think studios are taking a chance on it in a different way. So it's not to say that just because these movies did it doesn't mean that a studio like Warner Brothers wouldn't take a chance on a 10-hour property to tell the most amazing first season episode series of Westworld. Like that is a 10-hour movie that they just happened to be able to chunk up into 10 episode things for television, but they filmed all of that at one time because it was filmed all together and then sent to post-production to do the final breaking apart that they needed to do to make it ready for television. But they took that kind of script and said, how do we tell one cohesive 10-hour story and put that on the screen? And I think Westworld's done that pretty spectacularly for its first 3 seasons.
A lot of shows have. Witcher did it. Wheel of Time, I think, is doing a pretty decent job. I know some people might feel differently, but I'm enjoying it. Game of Thrones did it every season with how much money they put on the screen. So I get what you're saying. You're saying that rather than them take the gamble in a 3-movie situation or 6 hours, they put the same kind of budget or a lesser budget. They get the same quality, but less expensive nature, less gamble by putting it on television or streaming.
Got it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I concur with either one of those thoughts. The other thing that I was thinking about while everyone was, giving their sorts of ideas was that there aren't a lot of properties out there that really blend into telling a story like this that wouldn't still suffer by being cut down to, 6, 7, 8 hours or whatever. By the same token, there's not a lot of properties that you'd want to really take this sort of like trip with. Like as far as a production side is concerned, Marvel is about the only company out there who can actually bank on, if I put out a movie, everyone's going to show up for it no matter what. So let's just start churning this stuff out, which technically they are just churning out movies and banking on the Marvel name to really bring them in. Disney can't do that with Star Wars anymore because people are getting a little weary of Star Wars. There's just a lot of things people aren't really that dedicated to really show up for, and there's just so much for everyone to be exposed to. So it's really harder to really push this sort of thing these days.
And the closest thing that could come to it probably would be like The Dark Tower from Stephen King, and they already tried to make that attempt, and realizing that what they did was just botch the whole thing because they tried to tell a continuation story rather than telling the story that everybody wanted to have, which was start at the beginning, tell me who Roland is, and let me go on Roland's journey and start with book 4 and then go into the story. That way you could follow in chronological order versus book order. I think they would have been much more success doing it that way.
Well, they tried to make a series of that too, and that didn't take off for whatever reason.
Yeah, but even that series was supposed to be like a companion series to the movies.
Yep. Well, now they're making a Lord of the Rings series. It's like $1 billion for 2 seasons or something like the crazy number. Amazon Prime's just like, yeah, Bezos just throwing money. He's left. He's like, I'm done with my dildo rocket. Now I can go for this.
But I think what's different about that, it's going to be in the Second Age. In the Second Age, it's all like before Sauron actually comes to power. So you're going to get a lot of the stuff that's like the backstory of all the things and places that we've seen. You're actually going to see some of our characters from I guess it's the original trilogy now in a way.
Yeah.
But you'll see them in a younger state. Like you'll probably see Elrond, for example, because elves live forever. I think it's going to be a really interesting piece to add in because they're using Weta. They're using the same kind of locations in New Zealand. I think it's going to be a really interesting piece to see how well it actually translates from movie to television in that regard.
It also seems like they're going to be able to like dive right into magic as opposed to ease us into it. You know, that's one of the reasons why Lord of the Rings works so well is because it takes its time before it forces you to really suspend your disbelief a bit. And then once it gets to that point where they have no choice but to really force you to suspend it, then it's okay because you're already invested.
My favorite thing when the first movie came out, when Fellowship came out, was, you know, and I think everything has these people that say that they read the comics, they read the books, and you know damn well they didn't read anything. They just want to feel like they're part of the conversation. You know what I'm saying? Hey, teach your own, whatever you want. Lie. Get through life that way if it makes you happy. But at the end of Fellowship, you know, you go see Fellowship and you'd be talking to people about it, and everybody was talking about it at that time. And you talk to people who say, oh yeah, I love that book, and da-da-da. And anybody that's read that book, I mean, you can love that book, but you know it's a hard read. It's not an easy read. And
it's the easiest one of the 3.
Yeah, that's the easiest one of the 3. But I had this happen twice at that time where 2 people told me, oh man, I totally forgot Gandalf died. I'm going to miss him. And I'm just like, you didn't read shit. Because as soon as it happened twice, both of them said the same thing. Like they were just gutted. I can't believe he's not going to be in the movies. Then I forgot all about that. I'm like, you didn't read it. If you think that, shut up. Just stop lying. But you don't want to tell them that because, you know, nobody's going to admit that they're lying. So just I'll just wait till the second one, then I'll ask them about it. Sure enough, sure did.
Hey, you remember when you asked?
Oh, I read a long time ago, John. Read it so long ago, I totally forgot. Gandalf the White, the huge thing that has a huge ramification on everything that happens in the book. I forgot all about it. My bad.
Maybe they only read Fellowship and they didn't read Two Towers.
Whoopsie.
No, they said they read the whole thing. Okay, so here's a very important question. I think it's the most important question for anyone who's a fan of Lord of the Rings. When you do rewatch them, and if you don't rewatch them, abstain. But if you do rewatch them, regular or extended, it's like regular or crispy.
I have rewatched these movies, each one exactly once, and it was only because I had a lot more time on my hands in that period of my life, and it was the extended cut.
Okay.
I truly don't remember. I mean, I've obviously seen the regular cut, and I just rewatched them with former Hollywood Outsider host Scott a few years ago. for our Black Friday marathon, but I don't know if we watched the extended editions or not. I feel like we might have. And
Yeah,
I honestly
I'm sure you
just
did.
don't have a preference because I like the movies, but I'll be perfectly honest, especially in the second one, I start to lose some of my interest a little bit. It's just not for me. It's not anything wrong with the movie. It's just, it starts to slow down for me. And I really struggle with that.
You don't have to
So-
apologize because you don't have taste. It's fine. I mean, some people it doesn't come to naturally. No, it can be slow. I mean, literally, they do walk a lot.
I know. And for me, it's just my attention just is really hard to stick around for all of that, especially
There's
because
a lot
I'm
of
back to back.
characters that are
There's a lot of
introduced in that
characters.
second book too.
A lot of vistas, too, of people walking and trees walking, before Groot
Well,
was cool.
For the record, the Ents are walking in the original, and that's why you watch the extended editions, because in the extended editions, the forest is actually one of the key reasons why the orcs are driven back at Helm's Deep, is because the trees actually engulf the orcs as they're trying to escape when Gandalf shows up. So the fact that you don't see the trees in the theatrical releases is garbage, and that's why you only watch the extended editions.
I
Interesting.
think that was his answer. I will concur, though I do agree that with both of you, it takes a hefty investment of time. Like, you need to know, I don't want to go anywhere. I like my pajamas. I'm going to stay on the couch. I've got snacks and I don't want to go anywhere to the store or anywhere else. I've got plenty of food, drinks, maybe a catheter, whatever you need to sit on that couch and watch 4 hours of each film. And it is 12 hours if you want to watch the extended. They are definitely better, but they are also definitely longer. Dear God, they're so long. But I'm engaged.
Yeah, I don't have that kind of time.
Well, you say that, right? People love to say that now. I know people who love the original trilogy and won't watch the extended editions for the same thing you just said, John. And then they'll sit their ass down and binge whatever random Netflix show just came out, which happens to be 10 hours, no problem. And they'll do it on the same Saturday.
Yeah, but that's something new.
This is too, if you haven't seen it. That's new. The extended edition literally has 3 additional, it's a whole movie extra. Brand
Right.
new.
All I'm saying is the only time I've rewatched these was because it was extended cut. But now that there's new things to watch, I would much rather watch new things. New is always better.
Okay. All right.
See, my memory is so bad.
Good marriage
that-
advice.
My memory is so bad that I don't recall all of the details, and I'm going to be sitting there struggling to figure out what's different in this one that I don't remember from the original, the theatrical, regular, whatever you want to call it,
Al dente.
versus the extended editions. So that's where, like, I don't care. I truly don't care for any movie. Like, I just genuinely, unless I'm watching them back to back, I'm probably not going to really notice because my memory is so terrible. I'm not going to recall what's different.
It's simple. Long explanations about stuff that you don't care about, more dancing, and more singing. Those are the 3 things that they add.
And trees.
Look, 10-second Tom's not going to remember that in about 5
Okay.
minutes.
All right. Let's be nice.
All right.
Well, Tom's not in this movie, so let's not talk about him.
So
okay?
what has the series meant to you personally, if anything? If it hasn't meant anything to you, just home. But if it has meant anything to you personally.
No, I like what Amanda said specifically. It's about the smallest thing can make the biggest difference in the world. And I really love in the first movie, Gandalf's line when he says, a wizard is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to. And I think that when we're looking at our lives as we go through them currently, like a lot of times you worry about stuff, like you worry about the future, you worry about what's going to happen. You can't do anything about that. So it's like, don't spend your energy worrying about the future. Don't spend time worrying about the decisions you made in the past. You can only worry about now. Like right now is what I can affect. And so I think that line really speaks to me to say, hey, just worry about today. Life's a lot simpler.
That's how I live my life, man. I like it. Well, I think I'm the only other person that it affected personally based on...
All right. I'll give you my answer.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. So I will tell you that I think why I tend to love this film and this series so much is it's a great connection to a lot of friends. Like I've had so many friends that we could connect over this. And you instantly, it's just like Star Wars, an instant bond. I love Lord of the Rings too. What? And, you'd think Amanda would love it more since she's all into Dungeons and Dragons these days.
I was going to get there.
Where do you think it comes from? Whatever. All right. So for me, it's also the reason why I think it really resonates with me and stays with me is because the movie is fantasy. It's got magic. It's got all these things in it. But if you took all of it out, I still would love it because of the friendship, because of the characters. The magic isn't the focal point for me. It's the journey. It's I would love to go on a journey with my friends and go do something like this. You sure save the world, but just go off on an adventure. I mean, I think it's something that we as kids always thought about and dreamt of, and, to go off into some magical world, and you all played with your imaginations and you did that as kids. And that's kind of what it is. It's kind of like the Goonies for people that love fantasy movies, and it works. And it's also got heavy dramatic themes of real, importance, of weight, and, it's just responsibility, dignity, fierce work ethic. Don't quit. Don't give up. Be there for the people that matter. I mean, it's got so many life lessons in it. I just think checks every box.
Supporting your friends through addiction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Boring.
Jesus. What a buzzkill.
I can't carry it for you, John, and I definitely won't carry you.
When I was younger and I saw it, the biggest things I noticed is that I'm wildly attracted to people with blonde hair, apparently, because Orlando Bloom and Liv Tyler were, did she have blonde hair? I can't remember.
No, she had black hair.
But
No, she didn't.
I've noticed a trend with Orlando
Kate
Bloom being
Blanchett
blonde
did,
all
and
that.
she was lovely.
She was very pretty. But I also had a crush on Viggo Mortensen because he was very attractive in the movies. But the one thing that stands out in terms of relationships for me, and I know this is going to sound really weird because we're talking about a fantasy trilogy, but I would show it to you on my phone. I still have it. But when I went through some pretty horrible relationships, I took a step back and I actually made a list of all of the qualities that I thought the person that I would want to be with would actually have. And so I made this list with all these different things of what's important to me and the person that I want to spend my life with, et cetera, et cetera. And one of the things I put on there is Samwise Gamgee, because I wanted the person to reflect having a pure heart and endless support, and just being somebody like Samwise. It would be amazing, because that's what stood out to me about the films is more than anything just how pure his character was as a friend. And some of us, think that there might be a little bit more happening. You never know. There are theories on that. We won't get into it.
Fan fiction.
I thought it was pretty clear that but he was,
Anyway, so the other thing is related to what Aaron had mentioned is Dungeons and Dragons. I will fully admit it's not something I was ever into until my husband introduced me to it. And so I'm not somebody who's been my entire life invested in D&D, but I have grown to absolutely adore and love this game more than anything. And Lord of the Rings was it's where they pulled the half of their information from. In terms of Dungeons and Dragons. That's why they got a lawsuit, because they were using things like dragons and orcs and all of this language and hobbits that they couldn't continue to include. And I think for fantasy individuals, fans who never really had something that could visually represent what was in their mind and what they connected with, and just full on nerdgasm, this is what they really finally got on screen. And so especially for D&D fans, this is something that they could connect to and say, okay, I'm not as weird as I thought I was, because there are people who absolutely love Lord of the Rings and they get it. They just don't understand, what's special about D&D and how it all connects, and that hearing something like an orc isn't as unusual as you think. And so I think that's kind of special, is that it normalized some of the...
Didn't make it cool.
Yeah.
I don't like why you're always going in the basement with your friends and playing that weird game. Really? Because you just saw all three of these movies with me. Mm-hmm. Same thing. Except I'm in charge. I make the plans.
I think what's really great about the movie, too, is that it really shows you who your friends are, because you could have disagreement with a person that you're not really super friends with. But when you have a disagreement with your friend, especially over when this movie should technically end, I mean, you could get on a full-on Smeagol, throat choke going
yeah.
on with your person.
It's true.
Because there are some hard, strong feelings about when this movie should finally, nip it in the bud.
I've rewatched it 10 times and I shut it when they bow every time. Every time. And I tell that to some people and they get mad at me. How dare you? How dare you? How can you do that? All that stuff that happens is important. Like afterward. I'm like, yeah, but when they bow is really where it ended for me. I'm done. I know how the rest is. It's boring.
There's like 4 ending points.
Yeah.
So just pick and choose.
There is one. It is when the ships go into the West.
No.
That's why the song is called Into the West.
There is one, and it's when you bow to no one, and then everyone bows. Swell of emotion. Cut to black. At least
you know what
I do.
ending is the worst part of that movie is the actual ending when it closes on Samwise Gamgee, because Samwise Gamgee did his part in the shadows, in the background. He didn't ask for any accolades. He didn't ask for any favors. That's what makes the character so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you get to the end and you're like, oh, I left a little bit for you, Sam. And then Sam's like there with his wife and his kids, and it closes the door. I'm like, no.
That was sweet.
No.
That was sweet. You tankerous
It's not
old man.
sweet.
God. Also, we didn't even mention it.
Sam
It was,
doesn't want the spotlight.
you mentioned Orlando Bloom. It was really cool to have another friendship of those guys, a dwarf and an elf and, a human and everything, like coming together and actually having their own band of brothers when they come from all different worlds where they don't like each other
Right.
typically. And they came together because of a common good. We could all kind of remember some of those themes, especially
That's
today.
a good point. It's a good point, Aaron. It still only counts as one.
Would you, just a yes or no, would you consider this one of the top 10 greatest cinematic adventures of our lives? Just
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay. John,
Yes.
Amanda?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Consensus is definitely. And there's still somebody yelling going, the movie wasn't that good. It's overrated. I liked Willow better.
And that's why they're hanging out in their mom's basement alone.
Jesus.
Instead of hanging out with in their mom's basement with a bunch of friends playing D&D.
Yeah.
That sounds better.
Exactly.
Sounds like a lot
Better
more.
than
That does
hanging in a
sound
cage
better.
on the side of the road waiting for Willow to show up.
What the hell what are you talking about? What?
It's in the movie.
Oh, that got dark.
Mad Mardigan. That's how we meet him
That's
the
how
first
we meet
time. He's
Mad
in a
Mardigan.
cage on the side of the road waiting for
You guys call yourself cinephiles. I think we need to get to Amanda's
I
question
saw
later.
Willow once.
Why are you yelling at us all of a
Yes,
sudden?
you got very loud again.
I didn't get loud again.
Yes, we're
You're
all
pretty
making it
loud.
up. We're all everyone is making it up.
This goes back to the point you made earlier about how Troy can never admit he is wrong.
Wasn't me.
I just got closer.
Yeah.
Well, don't get so close.
Don't
Stop
get
making
so
out with your
close
mic.
to me. You know what is new on digital right now? The new movie, Clifford the Big Red Dog. It's home for the holidays. When Clifford grows 10 feet tall overnight, that is a large animal. He and his friends are chased across the city in his brand new movie adventure that critics are calling 100% fun for the entire family. So you can buy Clifford the Big Red Dog on digital today and get supersized special features, including deleted scenes, movie making magic, and much more. It's available at participating retailers, rated PG from Paramount Pictures. You're definitely going to want to check that out with your family. Clifford is a lot of fun. Also, we're giving away 5 digital codes of Clifford exclusively for listeners. What? And if you want to enter to win a copy of Clifford the Big Red Dog, share this episode on your social media and email us a link or a screenshot of that share to contests@thehollywoodoutsiders.com. That's contests@thehollywoodoutsiders.com with your name and the subject line Clifford, and you'll be entered to win. Help us and help yourself in the process. Now, we're going to bid adieu to 2021. That's right. This is goodbye 2021 and very casual, very laid back, just a conversation, not monologues. Are you glad to say goodbye to this frickin' year?
Yep.
Hell yeah.
I thought I was going to say that about last year, but apparently, yeah.
It just keeps going.
It's starting to blend into each other, so I'm hoping there's something different about 2022.
Do you feel like every time the year comes to an end, somebody's got to introduce some stupid new variant or something? We're just going to keep doing this for 10 years? Is that what we're going to do?
Can you not jinx it, please? Thank you.
It's already been jinxed.
I think they skipped that in the Greek alphabet.
So everybody's ready to say goodbye. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
That's what we said.
Okay.
I think
Maybe
at
you like to
least
stay
John
put. I don't
has-
know.
Every month for the last 2 years, I feel like it's just gotten weirder and weirder and weirder. And this is like this year, everybody's wanting to kick someone to the curb. Like everybody has this list of people we should cancel or get rid of or whatever. I mean, I was told not too long ago, now I'm supposed to not like Chris Pratt. Apparently he's on the hate list for something because he's going to voice a fictional Italian plumber and pipe jumper or whatever. I guess that's a problem. And he puts nice things about his wife online and doesn't mention his son, and that makes him an a-hole. I don't even know. The internet's like, it's all over the place. I just can't keep up with what I'm supposed to, all the negativity, disdain all over the place.
I think that sounds like a goal for you in 2022 should be less internet.
It's weird. Like, what? And everybody says, like, there's no cancel culture, yet I constantly have people trying. And maybe there's no culture, but there's definitely people trying to do it on a regular basis. Make it stop. Get back to happy things. You guys don't seem like you even want to talk about this year. You're just like, we're done.
I don't.
We're done. We are done.
The biggest way you stop cancel culture from happening is you just don't give it attention. That's the
there
problem.
you go. That's what I'll do from now on.
Yeah, because cancel culture, all it really is the vocal minority being louder than everybody else.
It's true. But too many people listen to them sometimes, on occasion.
Those are the people that have a problem. Those are the people that need to go to therapy because they shouldn't be listening to them because they are a vocal minority.
Damn, son. All right.
Well, yeah, it's like, I mean, sure, it's great that Sonic got fixed, for example. But at the end of the day, like, how many people were really concerned about Sonic and how he looked?
Everyone that was apparently a fan of that. It did look pretty weird, man. It looked like a creepy little monster. But see, that's the thing. A couple big wins, right? They got Justice League made, which was a great win for fans because that movie's great. I thought it was a fantastic, one of the best things of the year. And they got Sonic redesigned, which is great because that first one, I disagree with you, Troy. I think it looked like a hideous monster. Looked terrifying.
It was pretty scary.
Like a critter, one of those critters.
It was not right.
And yeah, like from Spawn of Satan or something. But then they get a couple wins, and then they just won't stop. Like they're still trying to restore the Snyderverse. Let it go. He moved on. He's making shitty zombie movies now.
Again, there's what, 1 million people that care out of 7 billion that live on the planet?
True. But they did give me Justice League, so everybody's like, well, they're so mean. I'm like, yeah, but I got Justice League, so yay.
So good for them. I'm going to use them exactly how I want to use them.
I mean,
that's
you know what?
my
Let's
thing.
just try to get that Snyderverse reinstated.
that's fine.
Stop being such an asshole about it. It's fine if you like really feel passionate about something and you're like, nah, this looks pretty messed up, man. But once they start sending death threats and it's like, you should lose your job because you're not doing things the way I want you to, your story isn't reflective of what I'm hoping it'll be, you killed off this character and now it's horrible. There's just, let's stop being so demanding of how artists put their art out. That's where I'm at. And I know that's like a piece of cancel culture, but it's the part I don't like is people who are just awful, like just horrible, mean human beings.
Sure.
Yeah, like I'm surprised that people didn't complain about not receiving a Gucci product after they came out of the movie House of Gucci. And then that just would have like gone wildfire. And then people would stop seeing House of Gucci because they weren't going to get their Gucci product, even though there never was going to be one in the first place. But that's literally what happens on the internet now. It's crazy.
Weird analogy, but fair. Also, you were wrong. That movie was not as bad as you thought, or as you said it was. And it does make sense to somebody who is not invested in Gucci, because I don't know a damn thing about the fashion industry, but I was able to track what the story was and all the details and who was who.
I didn't say the story wasn't hard to track. I just said the story was boring. It was so long.
You did say that if somebody was outside of the realm of the fashion industry or knowing who was Gucci and all of that it would be hard to follow, and it wasn't. So I'm just passing that along to you.
It'd be hard to follow if I don't care, because I just would have left. So we each have like a question pertaining to 2021. Mine is pretty simple. So the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's a beautiful thing. Everybody loves it. Nobody will ever, there can never be any criticism levied against it. It's against the rules at all times. But it should. It's open to criticism and critical discussion. Does it bother you that Kevin Feige has said that the MCU is not connected to the Netflix Marvel shows? And he's gone to great lengths to say that, despite Disney initially connecting them. If you go back and look at the actual press releases, which I did, and they do. In fact, Joseph Lub, I believe was his name, who was in charge of those shows, connected them himself. And people always say, well, he's not Kevin Feige. Guess who employs Kevin Feige? Disney. And Disney connected them via press release. Disney trumps Kevin Feige. Suck it. Anyway, well, now he's saying that Charlie Cox is still Daredevil in the MCU. And I feel like this whole issue kind of is it like shades of Star Wars kicking the extended universe to the curb? I mean, do you think it's fair for them to say that those shows don't count, even though those shows definitely reflected the movies? Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. they're trying to kind of say doesn't count, even though Coulson's directly from the movies. It's because Kevin Feige wants this Marvel Cinematic Universe world that now is going on where the shows on Disney Plus are connected. And he's basically trying to say, no, not that one. Not those ugly kids. Those aren't mine. You know, how do you guys feel about this?
Like the redheaded stepchildren.
Totally. I mean, it's just, and people, I swear, if you talk to anybody about it, they will be so adamant that no, Feige has said they're not connected. I'm like, go back and find the press releases. Go find Joseph Leb, whatever the hell his name was, who was running the shows and worked for Disney. Kevin Feige wasn't in charge of them. So he doesn't get to make that call. Disney did. And Disney said they very much alluded that they were connected. So, I mean, sure, change it now, but it's just a retcon. Does it bother you guys? Or am I the only one this bothers?
No, this annoys the crap out of me because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. should be connected, and Daisy Johnson, who's one of the more powerful characters in the Marvel universe, just gets wasted to a TV show where and Chloe Bennett can easily be transferred over from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to one of the movies, and she should have been. I feel the same way about Jessica Jones, a powerful character, should have been transferred over. Luke Cage. Okay, so maybe the guy in the pajamas, not so much, but Luke Cage, definitely.
The Punisher.
Like these characters. The Punisher, no.
It's too hard for Disney. Disney's not going to do that version of the Punisher. That's the sad part.
We don't need the Punisher, but
yes, we do.
No, we don't.
Yes, we
do. But let's agree that
we do. Man and I do.
Well, anyhow, like I get annoyed at the whole thing because of so for the exact same reasons of Star Wars. You can't just sit there and say it's punted to the curb. No, we're going to pull it. No, we like this part. And I get why they're doing it because Charlie Cox was such a great Daredevil. But at the same time, that was a great Luke Cage. That's a great Jessica Jones. That's a great Daisy Johnson. All these people who are great, you can pull them into the movies and make great use of them. So yeah, I'm bothered.
I disagree on Charlie Cox. I think he's milquetoast. Yeah, I said it.
He's what?
Milquetoast. He's bland.
Milquetoast. He's the Kevin Costner of
he's bland.
Marvel characters.
What is the origin of milk toast? Is this me aging myself?
No.
Yes.
No, just uneducating yourself.
What the hell is milk toast? Has somebody been putting milk on their toast?
That's just a way of saying wildly boring and uninteresting and has little flavor.
Okay. If I add cinnamon to it, then I would have Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and that's
not actual toast. Just look it up after the show. What do you guys think about this? Outside of John, Troy, do you have an opinion? Amanda have an opinion? No opinion?
I mean, I don't care, to be honest. It's like they're in, they're out. Yes, no. The properties work, and because at the end of the day, all you're gonna go multiverse. Yeah, and then they're in, they're out. Doesn't matter because the multiverse just exists now. And that's the problem.
Yeah, I can't stand the multiverse. It's just a lazy way to get out of everything now. Every mistake. Multiverse. That one didn't count. Multiverse. Shut up.
DC's got the same problem. I mean, how many different Earths are there? It's like, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, but DC uses it in a much better way.
I didn't say they didn't use it in a better way. I just said that it exists. So they can do the same thing.
Yeah, it exists.
Well, not to film, though. Exists. Film it, they haven't yet. I mean, they haven't count the CW shows, which I don't.
But I mean, you could literally take all the CW shows that actually had Crisis Earth that happened, and you could still say that the DC movie properties taking place on a whole different set of Earths very easily.
Well, you know what? Actually, going back to this whole, Ezra Miller did show up on Flash as the Flash.
When they did Flashpoint, right? Or something like that?
Yeah, they did Flashpoint, and Ezra Miller shows up, and he's like, "Hey, I'm the Flash," and he's like, "Wait a minute, no, I'm the Flash." And they have a whole conversation back and forth with each other. But
it's like that Spider-Man meme?
Yeah, pretty much.
Just pointing at each other.
Only it's Grant Gustafson and Ezra Miller.
Yeah.
So I'm perfectly fine if they want to exclude the next Netflix Marvel series or they want to include them. The problem, I guess, that I have. First, I should say, of course I would prefer for them to be included because, like John said, the casting is already talented and you already have, it's just bankable. You know that people loved those actors in those roles. So just stop being such a conglomerate and work with an organization that you guys can both make money from doing this with. That's how I feel. However, the thing that I feel is most annoying about the situation is just the lack of communication that's very evident between Feige and Disney, because Disney doesn't seem to have a concrete decision on what they want to do, or it has changed over time.
Yeah, it's changed.
And Feige seems to feel like, well, I'm just going to do whatever I want, though. So, like, it doesn't matter what Disney says, even though it does matter what Disney says. And that's the part where it's just like, okay, can y'all just tweak your communication just a little bit? Just say hi to each other and ask questions, maybe? I don't know.
They do. I mean, they're in total lockstep, I think, now. The thing is that everybody has Feige on this pedestal, which, no disagreement, best producer probably working today. Honestly, he's the only one that's been able to really successfully pull off a cinematic universe of any kind. So props to the guy. You know, he gets kudos for me. But
I mean, other than that George Lucas guy, I mean, twice.
Yeah, I would still give it to Feige. He's still winning.
Yeah, he said successful. Let's keep
and continuous. And Lucas hasn't been in the production game in a while. So working today, how's that? Does that make you happy? But
that makes it better.
Still think he trumps Lucas. But in terms of
20 movies versus 9 movies,
Can I
even if you
finish
try
my
to count
point?
them all.
Disney ultimately,
No, you can't.
Disney ultimately owns everything. So every time people say, well, Feige makes the decisions, all they have to do is have 2 or 3, 4 huge flops. Then you get 4 or 5, 2 or 3, he's going to be on the radar. 4 or 5, and then he's on the hot seat. 5 or 6, he's out. So if you think
You're super optimistic.
well, yeah, I'm just trying to be very, very optimistic there. We're like, well, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He's done so much to this point. As soon as the flops start happening, Feige is not as special as he used to be, which will always happen. It's just like anything. Nothing's going to last forever unless he's lucky. Maybe he will. But, I'm just saying, Disney controls it. Don't make the mistake that Feige runs everything. He's just in charge right now. That will change. Just like Bob Iger was in charge for a long time. Now he isn't. And it's a different guy. And that guy might have a different way of seeing how things roll.
I also wonder if part of it is like a marketing ploy on Feige's part or even Disney's part for one of them to put it out into the ethers and say it's going to be this way or it's not going to be this way. And then the press and audiences have a capture of what that individual is saying. And now that they've accepted that's the reality, it kind of forces the hand of the other individual. So whether it's Feige going out there saying, no, it's not connected, and he says that, and Disney's kind of like, oh, okay, well, I guess it's not connected then. Later on, they say, okay, well, I guess it's not because whatever.
Well, I think he has an ironclad plan now. I just don't, he didn't have control of the TV world back then, and now he does. And he has 2 platforms to, just to provide the entertainment on, so he can connect everything. And I think that's where it is. They're just trying to retcon the mistakes of the past by just pretending they didn't happen, I guess. It's weird. All right. So Amanda, you're up. Any question?
Okay. Well, first of all, I do want to address milquetoast. I did Google it, and apparently it is an actual cuisine, like a dish. So that's weird. Back to my question, though, and I did choose a different one that's more relevant to 2021. And I want to ask you guys how you feel about this dramatic shift and what I've noticed more so this year and even a little bit last year with the pandemic in our entertainment news outlets from being worthwhile and even considerate to spoiling things in headlines and sometimes just being flat out wrong simply to get clicks. Like, we're not going to fact check anything anymore. We're not really going to put anything together that's worthwhile. It's just, let's see what we can drum up today because we've got a few vloggers on our team now.
God, I hate that.
There's news on the internet? I was lost on that question.
Well, quote unquote news. There's entertainment articles at this point, or blogs, or listicles.
Or podcasts even.
Or even, yeah.
It's a real problem. Like, it's legitimately a real problem. there are a lot of sites, and of course, nobody bothers to check anything anymore. I can't tell you how many times a week somebody will send me an article and be like, "Did you see this?" And I'm like, "Did you check it?" Because that's not true. Because you say you don't, you know it all, but no, man, it's just there are facts out there. Just find the facts, and the facts that's not true. Like there are so many sites right now that all they do is make up stories and then say it's a rumor. And then people go mad about it. Like they will be sharing it left and right. They're clicking it. I mean, in our group, we actually weed a lot of that out. We'll delete those posts if, once we prove that they're not real, because it's just like, no, we already got enough of that in the world. So why do we need to keep spreading the lies? But
well, and I'm more specifically talking about reputable sites that are known for being
spoilers?
credible, and they're working with some of these film distributors or whatever, and they're the ones capturing the news, but they're doing it incorrectly, or they're putting things in headlines that they were specifically told not to do, and they do it anyway. And they're putting stuff in that is more opinionated than it is factual in terms of what's going to happen or what this means. That's where it's like, what's our turning point to where journalism just becomes non-existent anymore? Like true journalism where we research things and we provide information that is actually true.
It's gotten really bad. I mean, just this weekend, the West Side Story came out, right? And this past weekend, and did $10 million or something. And so all the websites were hyping it before the weekend. As soon as the weekend was over, because not enough people were going to see it. So I guess they're not clicking on West Side stories. They start bringing back up the Ansel Elgort accusations or whatever from a couple of years ago, and start using that as reason why the movie wasn't successful. I hate to break it to you, most people didn't even know about that because there was no charges brought, there was no real proof, and it's a he said she said kind of thing. I'm not taking a side on it. I'm just saying most people I know had no idea what that was even about. So that had nothing to do with it. But I saw several stories about it, and I even read one in a major publication. I won't say which one it is, because I don't want anybody to go find it and click on them, because they don't deserve to click. Where it felt
was
like...
it Deadline? Because it was Deadline. We already hate those guys.
No, it wasn't Deadline. You read through the whole article, and it starts off like it's just giving you factual information about how the box office performed, which is the only reason I continued to read it. Plus, it's a reputable site. And then it turned into this kind of attack on how is Ansel Elgort still working as an actor, and it's obvious that he is, shouldn't be acting anytime soon, and it turned into an opinion piece. It went from factual to opinion like that. And I was just like, I don't want to read. This is a gossip site now. I mean, it didn't have facts. It had opinions. I don't care about opinions. I only want facts when I'm reading. I know it's hard to find these days. And it's just very frustrating. Not to mention the spoiler thing you're talking about, where, you'll see spoilers of the picture and so-and-so, I can't believe somebody died in this show. And then it's got a picture of the person actually died in the show. Like, how is that okay? You're a major publication. You should not be doing that. And people say, well, you should just avoid it. Hey, I avoid spoilers like the plague. And I'll tell you, I can't avoid when they say someone died and the dude's picture's on it. I can't avoid it. I don't even watch Sex and the City shows, and I knew who died.
Didn't the Blacklist expose, you guys had some information, but you hadn't shared it. But there was a reputable news site that shared one of the big spoilers from the last season before they were approved to do it. And you guys knew that because you have your own embargo date that you received that information. And so it spoiled the show for people.
Probably. I don't remember specifically, but Troy probably
Deadline.
does.
End of season 8.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right.
Troy's got the date of the article and who wrote it. He's got it all written down.
Megan Boone's departure, right? They went early with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
We could have totally broken that story long before Deadline, and we chose not to.
Super long before Deadline ever even knew about it. And we didn't because we respected it. And we're not fancy journalists. We just respect it. And I don't understand. I mean, I know you want the clicks, but man. And fans were really pissed. They were pissed because they had no idea. Zip that Megan Boone was leaving the Blacklist. Sad. But what do you do about it? You can not click it, right? When there's a spoiler or an opinion piece, you can not click it. What do you do, Amanda?
And part of this is prompted by I can't wait to see what happens on Thursday with the Spider-Man release for No Way Home. They have like videos out of don't spoil the movie. They have their own hashtag, and I've muted the words, but I've done this before and I've been spoiled simply like what you said, Aaron, by the picture of like, this has been redacted, but then it's in, I mean, sometimes they're so bold as to just put it all in the headline, but then I stop following them. So it's just hard because sometimes you're just scrolling and it just happens to be on your feed, or, you know, you don't even follow that page and someone comments on it. So it shows up in your thread on Facebook or something. And you're like, what the heck, man? I didn't want to see that. So it sucks. I just feel like in general, journalism has just fallen to the wayside in terms of there is nothing valuable in half of the articles that show up anymore.
It's true.
Unfortunately, the way that journalism seems to be going is that nothing's going to actually start changing until people start standing up to what it is, or these corporations that own these sorts of publications to put these sorts of rules on to journalists to make sure they get views. Unfortunately, they get paid by how many people click on things, and if they don't have that going on, then how are they going to attract people there? I don't know. It sucks. I personally have taken the route of I'm going to go play outside more often than read a lot of articles, unless somebody in my trusted circle says, hey, you should read this article. I'm going to go, okay, I should probably read this article. But if it just pops up in my feed because somebody commented on it or something to that effect, I first look at who it is that commented on it, and then I take a measure of their personality or the person right there and say, well, do I really think that this person was able to read or have a good thought about a real article or not? So that's just me, though.
But keep in mind, if you're only getting your information from your trusted sources, then you're also listening to your own echo chamber. So you still have to ask other people, like, hey, what do you think of this, and get that second opinion? Because then you're actually doing your own journalism.
He's saying articles being shared, like the articles themselves. Like that.
Yeah, right. Sometimes I don't care enough to go looking for this stuff. I want to just experience what it is on screen as purely as possible these days. So I don't really want to hear, unless it's something I've already seen, I don't really want to hear a lot of opinion pieces on it. I don't want to hear a lot of like, this is what happened on the production anymore. Like these things are like, because like my brain puts together the story as I'm watching it to the point where I start predicting it, and I want to be as pure as possible. So whatever it is somebody says about a movie or a television show, I will care after I've actually experienced it.
Yeah, someone today literally spoiled one of the characters that's in Spider-Man to me when I was having a natural conversation. I literally said, I only saw the first trailer. I don't know a lot of the stuff that's in it. I've avoided a lot of stuff. Oh, but what about that moment when X character pops up? And I'm like, you son of a bitch. I literally just told you I haven't seen anything. I didn't know that character was in it because I've avoided it. Well, how could you avoid it? I mean, everybody's seen it. I'm like, no, everybody has not.
Some of us are intentionally staying off.
I've had that exact same conversation where I've actually yelled at somebody, where I've said to them, I just said the words, I have purposely not paid attention, and you just told me he is? Yeah, I thought you were kidding.
What?
You're not friends anymore.
Did you smack them?
Physical violence is not the answer.
I don't know. In this case, it may be
pee in their gas tank.
Validated.
That's how they answer. That's how you handle
pee in their gas tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Only the really talented men can do that. With today's gas tanks, the technology against it, there's so much working against you on that.
Oh my God.
It's really a prank worth pulling, though. It really is. Answer your question, Amanda? Are you good on your subject?
Yes. Yeah, I think we covered it.
All right, who's next?
I believe that is me that's next. So it looks like, at least as far as a lot of articles that I've been checking out, podcasting in 2021 has become officially mainstream. So if you look at what you have out there in the world, you have so many new shows that are taking fictional stories and creating like a podcast is actually a big component of that fictional story, or the characters are part of a podcast, something to that effect. And or you're seeing some podcasts be turned into an actual show these days. So that being said, and saying that like podcasts are actually becoming mainstream. Do you think, number one, I'm actually adjusting my question a little bit. Number one, do you think that the Hollywood Outsider should start looking at more of doing reviews on more podcasts that are out there? Or you can choose whatever one you want to answer. What other types of podcasts do you want to see or hear out there in the world?
I want to see less podcasts, to be honest. There's just
less competition.
Well, not even so much from that. Just like there's just so much information, and I think there's also like it's become. And I'm not saying this because I have a broadcasting degree or I'm kind of snotty about my audio and all that other
It
stuff.
sounds like you're getting there right now, though.
La-dee-da.
There's
I
it
feel
made
pretty.
it almost
I feel
too
pretty.
easy to start a podcast. That unless you're like going to be committed to it, like don't even bother. Like I'm not. There's just so much noise that it takes really, really hard to like go through and go like, okay, well, what's going to be good? And then you have to sit there and listen to like 4, 5, 6, 7 of the specific shows that you're interested in, whatever topic you're interested in, before you land on the one that you actually like. And it's just so much investment to try to find the one show that you want to listen to. So I think that we need to come up with a way to like kind of cull the herd a little bit and get it back into like, there's got to be some level of standard to be classified as a good podcast. That's one thing. Your answer, like, should we review podcasts? No, because there's too many of them to even sit and do the
And
review
also,
portion of
there
it.
are people who already do that and don't do a great job anyway. So,
I mean, all of it's done for free. I mean, that's the big thing. So, the one thing I do like though is that podcasting has become more mainstream. I think like when Aaron and I can't remember, I don't think Amanda was involved at the time, but like when Aaron and I were on a thing called TV Talk, back 9-10 years ago now, I think that the service idea and the concept of that was really, really fascinating. And I think maybe it was just a little bit early for its time. Like if TV Talk existed today, I think you'd have something that's really great, because I love at the end of like the Apple shows and the HBO shows, like stay after the show for a little bit about this episode. Like that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that 15-20 minute, just little like, tell me about this episode and why it was so special or meaningful, or why did the writer write this particular topic? Like some background information, I think really adds to the overall enjoyment of a property. So I think from that perspective, I'd love to see podcasting go there, where there's like 15 to 20 minute excerpts that I don't have to sit and watch on the TV also, because then it's not, part of the show. It's like after credits in a way. Like I want to take it and go with it and like listen to it at a later time.
see, I'm kind of at max capacity with podcasts. I feel like there's way too much. I actually don't like that it's mainstream whatsoever, and not from, and truthfully, not from like a competitive landscape, just more so that it was so great to hear authentic, just people, just genuine people who found that this was a way for them to get their voice out there about something. And it was so minimal when it first started, and even up until like I feel like a few years ago, where I could still handle the opinions of people. Whereas now I'm like, if I listen to a podcast, it's for knowledge. It's for something that I don't know. It's not for opinions. Very rarely do I listen to opinions. I've just gotten, because there's just too much of it. There's just too many people's opinions that it's gotten to the point of, well, I don't even know if it's going to be, to Troy's point, if it's going to be a worthwhile investment for me to listen to your opinions, because your audio may be terrible. And then I'm suffering, and like, I don't want to deal with that. So I've just gotten very worn down with podcasts in general.
Or the reverse, where it's like, I really, really want to hear your topic, but I can't hear a damn thing you're saying.
But it's terrible.
Yeah, I don't want to review podcasts, John, to answer that question right off the bat, because movies and TV, that's what we do. And I mean, we could change the format. I'm all about changing the format. We've had similar format for years, so I don't mind tweaking it, but I don't want to review podcasts. But how do I feel about them being mainstream? I mean, it's good and bad. I'm glad that people will accept them now. I don't feel like people will look at me any differently than they did before. I actually think they look at me a little less respectful now, because, oh, you got a podcast too? My cousin has a podcast. He does it in his garage. What do they talk about? I don't know. It's two guys talking about stuff, man. I mean, that's literally...
Oh my God, that's my least favorite type of podcast.
There's like no structure. It's just they show up, two guys and a beer. All right, cool. That's neat. And of course,
They
people
have no direction. You have no way of preparing me about what I'm about to listen to. You just, whatever comes to your mind, you're going to talk about. Listen, I have women for that. That's what I have friends for. I'm not so lonely that I need to listen to other people have a conversation when I can have my own.
I mean,
Especially when you start in the conversation in the middle and you kind of walk in and go,
Oh
"Hey,
my
what are they
God."
talking about?"
yeah, I
Yes.
like opinionated podcasts. I just want like informed opinions. And when it's just too often, especially COVID times, I mean, so many people will be like, "Hey, I'm doing a podcast," and they'll be, "Check out my podcast because I've done one and for years and years and years and all that stuff." And I appreciate that they think of me to sample it, I guess. But far too often, it's that kind of format where it's just like, "Two guys, what do you want to talk about?" "My vacuum cleaner, man. I can't believe the way that it vrooms." And I'm just like, that's not good. "Well, that man," and then you'll hear somebody else talk about, "That was freaking hilarious. Love that episode." And I'm like, "What episode? It was about a vacuum cleaner." All right. So maybe I'm out of tune. I don't know. But
your podcast is equivalent to your vacuum cleaner.
yeah,
It sucks.
exactly. It was,
That was such a dad
it was
joke.
good though. I wish would have thought of it at the time. So I don't know. I mean, it's just,
We-
it's great. I mean, it's great. And it's obviously diluted our numbers some because there's so many other podcasts out there, but it is what it is.
It's content overload in general.
There's so
That's the
much.
problem.
And celebrities are taking over just like they do everything else.
Yeah,
Oh
like,
yeah,
like,
celebrities.
like no offense to Maggie Lawson and Tim, but it's like I don't need a psych podcast. I mean, Aaron might still think that you
I
need a
kinda
psych
liked it.
podcast, but
Except
I mean,
it's sad. It's like the cast and they're doing all these great stories and I'm checking it out. You know, the psychologists are in, you can check it out. And I enjoy it. But also I'm like, you're not talking, like, it's literally, they're on the 4th or 5th episode. They keep putting the episodes they're talking about on there. They have yet to really talk about a single episode.
right. Like I thought I was getting like the TV recap portion of it, and they're just literally doing morning radio.
Or stories about that particular episode. But instead they're going way wide. So
For me, I liked to think about the idea of more storytelling happening through podcasts, and I think about like Aaron, you got me on a show years ago, We're Alive.
oh yeah.
And as an auditory experience of storytelling, it's fantastic. It's, each episode is anywhere between 10 minutes to 20 minutes
Very
long.
short.
They're easily digestible, and the storytelling, as far as like, it's probably one of the best zombie apocalypse things you can actually spend time with, because of the characters the character development, and the kind of stories they're telling. But also there's the black tapes, where it's something else that I really enjoyed. That was
I
again
loved the
another bit of storytelling that happening. Tanis is another one. I didn't get so much into Rabbits, which is another one of those from the same production company.
Right.
Limetown. I do myself want to see more of, like, I want to see a renaissance of the 1950s radio shows. And it would be very cool to have it out there. I think it's very possible. There's so many voices to be able to do it. You can do that sort of thing with such a cheap production quality to it that it still sounds pretty professional, and that's what I want to see.
Yeah, the number of pilot scripts that get rejected every year during pilot season. Just take the pilot and make it a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a good idea. Stop putting this shit out there. People are getting it for free.
We kind of did that with Smirk and people didn't listen.
I was going to plug Smirk also.
I'm just saying.
Smirk podcast.
Really,
It's a storytelling
really
podcast.
creative. Every episode was a whole different story and topic, all in its own. But whatever, guys don't like cool. Let's go talk about two
Finally
guys.
wrote one for Smirk, and it doesn't exist anymore. Sad.
It's still out there. There's 100 episodes. You can go check them out.
It'll come back if people listen.
It's going to a lot of people are going to have to listen. So Troy, what is your question? Last one, and well, we got a couple listener ones that we'll get.
Mine is a very simple one, and that is
Excellent.
the 2021 streaming versus theaters, especially with Warner Brothers, and the decision to put all of their movies on HBO Max day and date. We're now at the end of the year. The experiment is about to come to a close when Matrix hits HBO Max next week. Holy crap. Do we think it was a success? Do you think this was the right move for Warner Brothers? Do you
No.
think other places missed out, or do you think it was just a complete failure?
Go ahead, Mandy. You started.
Oh, I was trying to be very succinct. No, I'm not a fan.
Okay. Were you trying to be succinct? Get it?
I was.
Your name? Succinct?
Oh, that'd be a good Twitter handle.
It should have. Yeah, missed opportunity.
Except she's not, but okay.
That's the irony.
See, it's not true. That's why it's funny.
Yeah.
Look at them explaining irony to you.
She's more like sus. That's for
And we're explaining milquetoast to her. Everybody's learning something. We are a learning podcast. Knowledge.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't really feel like this was good for the interim. This is not a fruitful long-term experiment that you should continue doing. I don't think that there's enough value in it for the film companies, even, no less the individuals. Like, we still need to find a balance of being able to put some of these movies on streaming platforms, by shortening the release window. I think that's a great way to do that, where you don't have to always go to the movie theater for every single movie. But you also don't have to wait 6 months for it to come out on DVD or Blu-ray or whatever you watch it on, and then receive it in the mail. And then you get to finally watch it or come to Redbox or whatever it is. I like that the theatrical window has shortened. But if you completely stick with day and date release, like, you're just eliminating, I think about even just the film critics, how many independent journalists are going to be completely wiped away because they don't have access to some of these untouchables that are day and date release. So, like, they have to go to the theater to see it, or if you only release it on streaming, then they're limited. You'd think that it would be more accessible, but it's actually less accessible, I think, when it's just streaming to get your screening copy.
I don't know. We get online video on demand pretty often.
Yeah, but when I'm talking about like Blockbusters through Disney or HBO or anything like that, it's tough.
Got to be willing to spoil stuff online to get those. That's how you get those.
Just accidentally uploaded to your website.
In 4K.
Absolutely.
It reminds me, I got to check my sister's Plex server.
Oh, my God. John, you could probably speak to this because you are currently, for a portion of this year, you have been living where you didn't have easy access to a theater. So for you, has that been kind of a godsend in that respect? So does that make you feel any differently about it or no?
Okay, so I'm of two feelings on it. Was it successful? Ultimately, the numbers of subscribers at HBO Max and how they've grown will be the measuring stick for that. I think because Apple Plus is actually the one that's losing or at least the last I heard, they're the ones that are losing the streaming battle currently. I would say that that's kind of a success for them. Did I appreciate it as somebody who doesn't have a lot of easy access to movies? Yeah, I appreciated it, but I'm gonna probably have to give up my I want to stay at home and watch movie card or something like that, because I really missed seeing some of this stuff on the big screen in the theater with a theater experience.
Oh my gosh,
it just makes me feel
John,
good.
these are
this is the
sexiest thing you've said all year.
That feels like you're hitting on me. I mean, I'm almost gay. A little bit.
Yeah. So I reflect on things like Dune. I feel like I loved the movie Dune. I did enjoy this version more than the original version. I didn't enjoy it nearly as much as the series that I love, but I did enjoy watching it. I probably would have loved it on the big screen. Suicide Squad, same sort of deal. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a very fun movie. I would have probably enjoyed it more on the big screen. I would have enjoyed the laughs. They would have hit a lot harder in a theater experience with a good bunch of friends, and not with like a couple of codgers that I got to explain everything to while I'm watching it. I really have to admit, I miss the theater, and as a viewer, it's been really hard.
The only positive I can say, Troy, is that they definitely handled it better than Disney, because they paid off all their talent ahead of time by, millions. They actually spent a fortune to make that happen, because they had to pay off all their talent, because all their talent had, incentives that were tied to the theatrical release, where Disney's like, nah, we're going to do what we're going to do. And then they have to get sued by Scarlett Johansson, and it turns out that they're a-holes. So,
and then Scarlett was the villain in that.
Right. Now, I think they were right to do it initially. I think they it didn't need to be done. They should have done it month by month or something. By announcing the whole year, I got what they were going for. They were trying to win that streaming battle. On the same token, I think they lost themselves millions because there were a lot of films that you could tell would have been much more successful had they just released them in theaters. And instead, they did both, But there were times where, and I saw every single one of them in a theater first, and I would watch it in the theater, and then I'd come home and rewatch it or see something I might have missed, because those movies I always felt pretty good about taking a bathroom break on because I knew I could just bring it up later.
See, and I think that they ended up winning the whole thing because even though there was a little bit of kerfuffle around like, oh man, why should we be doing this? And the theater owners getting upset about it. I think for Warner Brothers, that actually really established their position because they really understood what HBO Max is supposed to be. There's the potential now of HBO Max and Discovery merging because of all that, and AT&T spinning that all off so that AT&T can focus on the stuff that AT&T needs to focus on. And I think that at the end of the day, it was the thing that actually drove the decision to get to a 45-day window rather than having 90 days, or in this case for HBO, 9 months before it would ever show up on HBO itself. So at the end of the day, more subscribers are in. HBO Max is clearly a third place. I mean, HBO Max is the surprising streaming service, I think, for 2021. Out of all the things that we've watched and all the things we've seen, sure, Netflix is still the thing that comes to mind first, but I don't go to Hulu for movies. I barely go to Amazon Prime unless like Jack Ryan or something is on.
Yep.
Wheel of Time is the first thing that I've seen that's really got me motivated to go back to Amazon Prime in a long time. I don't remember the last time I watched Disney Plus unless it was a Marvel or Star Wars property. And HBO Max, I turn HBO Max on like almost every day because there's always something I could see
a lot of stuff
on HBO
on
Max.
Yep. Agreed.
So, and if I can watch Matrix while I'm laying in bed in the morning, great. Sounds awesome. I don't even have to get out of bed to watch it. That's fantastic.
That'll make the second and third movies a lot better. Just being able to lay in bed, fall asleep.
I fell asleep in the second one, rewatching it.
Yeah, at least the action's good in that one. But boy, when you get to that third movie, it's just like, why am I still invested? Why?
I don't even remember the third movie.
But Harry Lennox is in the third one.
He's awesome. I don't care. The movie sucks, man. It's like awful. I love when people tell me, oh, that movie's great. Yeah, if you like garbage, sure. It's good. If you a lot of people like to dig through garbage. You're going to be Jabba the Hutt for the rest of your life. Sorry. All right, here's some listener questions. Jennifer Miller says, I'm curious which director surprised you the most in 2021 and why? Now, let's keep our answers a little short because we got to move on. But and why? And what is your favorite genre of movie and why? I'll tell you, a director that surprised me the most would be Justine Bateman. Yeah, from Family Ties, because she did a little movie called Violet, which I thought was fantastic. Unfortunately, hardly anyone saw it. But it's about a woman, Olivia Munn, who wrestles with that voice in her head, and it really consumes her. And it's something that I think speaks to anyone with anxiety and anyone that has to wrestle with that whole concept. And she did a masterful job of bringing the voice in your head and that little nagging negativity to the forefront. They really brought it on the screen. Did a really beautiful job.
I'm going to go Josh Rubin for my director who did Werewolves Within, but I also caught Scare Me in the same year. So I started with Scare Me and then I saw Werewolves Within, and it was just overall, I had so much enjoyment with those movies, and I can't wait to see what happens next. And for genre, thrillers are my sweet spot.
Oh, I didn't say genre. Mysteries. Those are my favorite genre. There just aren't enough of them.
I'm going to say John Chu because I thought In the Heights was actually a really great job.
Great choice.
Great answer.
To get that done for 2021. I mean, just, having been a Broadway play converted to an actual movie versus like just showing the stage play version of it. I think that took a lot of skill and a lot of craft in order to make that happen. So kudos to John. I like musicals. We'll say Tick, Tick, Boom once again. Must watch. Have to go see it over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. I like something where I'm surprised by the ending. We'll call it that. Like I like thrillers. I like action. I like romance. Just give me a good twist ending that I didn't see coming, and you'll have me.
I want to say Lin-Manuel for Tick, Tick, Boom. Like I'm I'm not the biggest fan of musicals, but I don't know what drove me to decide to sit down and watch this one, but it caught me right away, and I was engaged, and I was having fun, and I was enjoying the music, and everything about the way the story was being told was just fantastic, and how they laid down the through lines to Rent was pretty solid as well. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Lin-Manuel and Tick Tick Boom. As far as like my favorite genre for 2021, I'm going to say horror. I've been relying a lot on horror for 2021. And yeah.
A lot of great stuff out there, too. What movie, or this is Adam Smith. We've got 4 total. So this is, that was 1. And now we're going to Adam Smith. What movie or TV show would you like to see get a sequel or a new season that hasn't already been announced? My answer is really easy. It's 24. I want to see Jack Bauer out of that Russian prison and give him the farewell he deserves.
With Yvonne or somebody else?
With Yvonne. Yvonne Strahovski, she's got to come back. She did a great job in that season.
Hell yeah.
Yep. And he deserves it.
I concur. All of that.
Prodigal Son. That it's one that we already know is dead in the water, but if they were to revive it and give us a conclusion, that would be amazing, because being left on a cliffhanger for a show this damn good is just infuriating.
For me, I'm going to go with Cowboy Bebop because I really love the series. I thought the series was very well done. I think that everything they said about the series, as far as critics and everybody else, was way off base. It's one of those things that make me go, why can't people like the shit that I like? And yeah, so I'm going to go Cowboy Bebop.
I don't know why you have to yell everything. Why can't you just say, why can't people like the stuff that I like? But instead you...
Because I emphasize it with shit.
Because I have to like really emphasize it, and it's called making a voice acting kind of thing. And
that's what it's called.
And trying.
That's what it's called.
Well, no,
making a voice acting.
Yeah,
kind
voice
of thing?
acting kind of thing. Right. Yeah. You know,
Is it a medical term?
It's a medical term. It's yeah.
Jesus Christ. All right. Next, Stefan. Did you not answer? Well, you said.
No.
I thought you were joining with 24. I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I think you can guess which one mine's going to be.
Lost.
Oh, you'd be wrong.
Okay.
Suck it.
What is it?
Alias, actually. I would love to see an Alias reboot. I think Alias has some really cool fun. Jennifer Garner could totally hand off like the torch to a new person, and they could totally do a whole new Alias.
She could still stay.
She could still do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a badass. What was that movie she did just a few years ago?
Peppermint.
Yeah, that one was good. That one was fun, and she was awesome. She's
great.
Built.
Yeah.
And she's built. But she's also great.
You can watch Alias any day of the week on repeat. It's so good.
All right. Stefan Smitterbeck. Well, he says top 3 rewatchable movies. He said from 2020, but it's a 2021 podcast, so we're going to say it doesn't have to be a number. What are the most rewatched movies of 2021 for you guys? I can do this easy. Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League. I can't believe I watched a 4-hour movie, but I watched it 3 times. Show did. Fast 9, and I watched it twice. I kind of wish I hadn't. Black Widow, Violet. I rewatched that. There you go.
Godzilla versus King Kong.
Surprised.
I've watched that at every single time. I'm a little sad that gets put on TV. Justice League, the Snyder Cut. I've watched that probably 4 or 5 times. And then let me go with TV show. Over this last year, I've watched How I Met Your Mother. I've gone through that show too many times to count, and it's kind of sad, but it works. So,
okay.
So my first is Recovery, just because I'm pretty sure that was one of the only ones that I actually did rewatch multiple times, and I laughed so much I was crying. Shang-Chi, I loved that movie, thought it was so great, and as soon as I left the theater, I wanted to go back in and watch it again. And then Schitt's Creek, I've just had on repeat all year long. I realized that there wasn't a new season this year, but it was new to me, so I feel like it counts.
I would have to say In the Heights. Watched it multiple times.
Yep, I should throw that in there too. Yep.
I would say The Devil All the Time. Watched it multiple times.
Did you really?
Really?
Yeah. I really like the ending.
Yeah, that's good.
When he gets in the car with the guy that picks him up on the side of the road, I'm just like, I laugh every single time that happens. It's so great. If you understand what the movie's about, you'll get the joke. And I would say, shocker, Tick, Tick, Boom.
I guess
Seen it 10 times.
I gotta
10
watch
times.
Tick,
It's
Tick.
that good.
You've watched
Oh
it
my
10
God.
times?
10 times. On repeat. It's so good.
You literally
you
tell me you don't
cried a
have.
whole bunch?
Hang on a minute. You literally tell me you don't have time to.
And it's only been out a
do
couple weeks.
Anything. It's been out like 2 weeks.
It just
How?
on repeat in the background because the music is so good. The story is so good.
Every time I ask you any question, you're like, man, I don't have time right now. I don't have time. I don't have time.
He gives us shit all the time for being in our group chat, for the Hollywood Outsider group chat between the four of us. And he gives us shit for just responding and answering questions throughout the day to each other. How do you guys have this much time? You're working. We're working. Some of us have to be working. But he's watching Tick, Tick, Boom 10 times. And what'd you say, John? 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
3 maybe?
3.
It's been 3 weeks, but yeah.
Whatever. For someone who's so busy,
Does it
he
play,
can't even
like,
respond
do you
to a
have it
message.
every time you go to the bathroom and you're just holding it while you're trying to hold your stream? God.
It just you go to bed and you whatever you picked up from where the last
Doing
time you were
dirty
done watching
things.
it,
You've got it in the background.
That's so weird. All right.
The blue, silver, chromium.
I did watch Werewolves Within like 3 times too. That was fun. That was a fun one. So let me see here. The last question, I believe. And that's for John, specifically for John. From Andres Carrizo. I made him Spanish.
Love this.
You like that? I hope he likes it. Does our John Davenport still own the Rolls Royce he was driving around the neighborhood in Panama?
Yes. I love it.
Yes, but you know, we couldn't bring it back to the States in more than just one piece, so we had to break it up in like 15 pieces, and we couldn't find everything. It's just too much.
That reminds me.
It's only okay for you to do
it's
that
really
because
not,
you came
you're
from
Spanish.
Panama.
You can have that and not
Right.
get a letter.
So you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and let me just help dispel some of this stuff.
You had 2 nannies.
It sounds a
It's
lot
done.
fancy.
It's done. You had 2
It
nannies.
sounds a lot fancier than it really seems. Both of my parents worked full-time jobs. Like the
You
only way
had
to
a nanny.
You had 2 nannies.
it wasn't they weren't even nannies. Like, we don't count. We didn't ever call them.
Just
nannies.
call them the help,
It
right?
was-
You called them
no, we called them
nannies
maids.
like 2 weeks ago or a week ago on
No,
the
I
podcast.
called them maids. I called them maids.
go check the tape
because they were our
sucker.
maids.
You called them nannies.
Okay,
I never said
You
nanny.
did. Go back and check
None
the
of
tape.
us have
I never
maids.
said nanny.
Go
Nanny is not a word I
go
use.
check the tape. Go check.
I'll go check the tape.
Fine.
Nanny was not a word I use. Anyhow, and like we didn't live in a fancy neighborhood. It was just like it was a whole lot of double wides, or in our case, it was like a quadruple wide because my dad kept on building onto the thing every chance he got. But but when I say my dad was building onto it, he was the one actually out there building onto it.
Are you sure your maid wasn't
yeah,
the
were
one
were the
doing
maids out
it,
there
or your
helping?
2 maids?
Were the maids out there laboring? Were they the bricklayers too?
No, they didn't do anything like that. They only
cracked his
bathed us.
toes.
No, and cracked my toes.
Cracked my toes.
Hey,
That's insane.
it's not as fancy as you guys merely make it sounded out to be. That's all.
Yeah. We're definitely
talk so much about your non-peasant theater that we just assumed that you came from this high society.
Hey, I really enjoyed being able to appreciate the finer things in life because I didn't always have the finer things.
Doesn't sound
in
like
life.
you
And as
never.
much
It
as
sounds like you never not had the finer things in life. That's all I'm saying.
It's
I mean, there are
it's
people in
that- there's
single
a lot of
wides,
us-
and you're in a double wide. Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds pretty fancy to
Double
be.
wide.
With 2 maids.
there's a lot of assumptions. Hey, that wasn't in Panama.
That
That
were
wasn't even
also
in the
nannies.
States. So in the States, there's a big difference. So
Yeah, down in Panama, a double wide is like a mansion.
you could go and like retire down there off of like 20 grand
It's
a
like
year.
telenovela
It's,
Dallas.
yeah, you can, but you can do all sorts of stuff like that.
Cheers. All right,
Oh my
let's
God.
move
It's
on.
not okay when you do it.
I just watched the telenovela Psych episode, so it's in my head. It's in my head. You know what? I want to mention before we move on that the bunker thriller American Refugee is now available on digital and on demand. In the midst of societal collapse, the Taylor family's last chance at survival is a neighbor's bunker, where their fate lies in the hands of the family patriarch. When tensions arise, who can really be trusted? You can buy or rent American Refugee and watch it today, unrated from Paramount Pictures. So definitely check that out. It sounds intense And also, we're giving away 5 digital codes of American Refugee exclusively for listeners. So if you want to win a copy, share this episode on your social media, email us a link or screenshot of that to contests@thehollywoodoutsiders.com. That's contests@thehollywoodoutsiders.com with your name and the subject line, American Refugee. And I think the description says all you need to know. It sounds really exciting, really intense. And once you do that, you'll be entered to win. Help us. Once again, you'll help yourself. We're going to close the show out. Before we do, please share your thoughts on this episode or anything else in our Facebook group, The Hollywood Outsider. We're also on Twitter @BuyPopcorn. Be sure you follow us there. Our website is thehollywoodoutsiders.com. If you want to listen to these people over the holiday break, you can go to find John and his artwork on Insta and Twitter @RJohnDraws, Amanda on Veronica's Marshmallows and Smirk, and @Sync Into This. Troy @Troy Heinrichs and The Blacklist Exposed, and me on The Blacklist Exposed with Troy, and also Presenting Hitchcock and @Aaron Smirks on Twitter. I do want to ask any recent recommendations for theaters or streaming. I want to ask Troy first because I know you saw West Side Story, which is the Steven Spielberg recreation of the classic film. Thoughts? I mean, brief thoughts on that?
Short review would be not as good as 61 from if you like the songs and the music perspective. Kudos to Spielberg on the inclusion and diversity of the cast and the way they portrayed the Puerto Rican culture. I think he did a fantastic job, and that was much better than 1961. Maria and Tony have no chemistry whatsoever in this particular version. So unfortunately, if you're going for the love story, you're going to be a little bit disappointed. But Maria and Anita, their piece,
so good.
That was really good. Like, puts 61 to shame.
Rachel.
But yeah, it's definitely worth going to see. If you haven't, if you've seen West Side Story before, I don't think you need to rush out to the theater and see it. But if you haven't seen West Side Story before, this is a good one to go watch because you'll be bored by the 61 version because you're too young.
I saw it too. It's a good movie. In the Heights, I think, is better in terms of a movie musical of this year. And Tick, Tick, Boom apparently is the best one, according to you guys. But Rachel Zegler, who you're talking about, was Maria. Fantastic. I mean, just a wonderful star-making kind of performance. She has the voice of an absolute angel. And Ariana DeBois, I believe is how you say her name. She plays Anita. She was fantastic. And if you watch Schmigadoon on Apple, she is the teacher.
Super good.
She is the teacher. She has the best song in the entire series. I mean, she's just somebody I'm going to follow. Not literally, because that would be stalking. I'm just going to follow her on social media and her future projects because she's great. Not in person on the streets of New York, because that'd be weird.
And because you're not in New York.
That too. That's why it would be weird. It'd be a long trip.
So
There'd be a whole lot of dedication on that.
True story.
I caught all of Dope Sick, which was really fascinating and also super aggravating. I haven't felt my blood boil while watching a show in a very, very long time the way I did while watching Dope Sick on Hulu. Aaron, you're watching it now too.
I'm
and
a
you're
few
feeling
in,
it.
and you told me, like, be careful, it gets worse. And the sad part is I knew a lot of portions of it because of the news stories when it broke and all that. And I still am kind of crushed by some of the things that happen in there on the opioid crisis. OxyContin.
Yeah. Seriously, I cannot be the only person who thought it was cotton, like the fabric.
Most people say it like that. So yeah.
They do, but I was like, oh, it's contin. Makes sense. But anyway, it's essentially just about how this opioid crisis in our nation began and really originated from the manufacturers who created this product and did everything they possibly could to get it on the market with some really sketchy methods.
Yep.
And it's just horrible. It's so, so horrible. I've also been watching Dexter New Blood.
So good.
I was so nervous, but I'm really enjoying it. Like, it's still keeping up. I'm up on the latest episodes, and just if you've been hesitant to watch it, you should watch it. I think I've said this once before, but I really want to urge people to watch it because it is so good,
Yeah,
Aaron.
it works.
Couple more. Ghostbusters Afterlife. Finally caught that in the theaters. Really enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun and very unexpectedly. And then Single All the Way. That was a fun little LGBTQ holiday film on Netflix.
John hasn't seen shit, so let's move on.
So I finally, so speaking of not seeing shit, so I finally, after 6 months, I guess, caught Fast 9.
Oh boy.
And
Yeah.
this is not really a
And
recommendation.
he starts commenting in our thread and telling us, like, I can't, this happened. We're like, man, we saw it like 6 months ago. I'm sorry you live in Egypt, but everybody else has seen it.
Yeah, I know. And that's why I felt safe that I should be able to talk to you guys about it. But apparently it's not a safe space, Aaron.
Oh, no.
You're welcome. Not a recommendation.
You started the conversation with trying to make sense of the movie. That was the problem.
Yeah, you're like, that doesn't happen. Like, no, none of it does. Space sure doesn't.
I never said that doesn't happen.
Actually,
I
defended the car in space. Okay.
Yeah, he had a whole scientific play for it.
I don't even have a problem with the car in space. I didn't have what I had a problem, like the things I had a problem with.
You should have.
The absolutely absurd dialogue. They showed up to work and talked to each other this way, and they didn't go, "Hey, maybe we should fix this." Like, that's aggravating. Like, what else was there? Like, Lucas Black. Am I supposed to still believe that he's still like the teenager in Japan?
No,
because
older. He's 37 years old. I think, or 57.
He's been dragged behind a truck. He looks like the same exact age as Dennis Quaid, and Dennis Quaid is 60, 70 something.
He does kind of look like Dennis Quaid. Yeah,
you guys are
he does.
so mean.
There is just so many different things. When I was watching this whole thing go down, I'm like, who did this get past? And did they just say, screw it? We're just like, the only enjoyable part, I can't even finish a freaking thought, is how annoyed I am with it. The only enjoyable part was John Cena, and he had 2 minutes on screen, but his 2 minutes were the better 2 minutes of any 5 minutes from anybody else. So go watch it.
Really misses
John,
The Rock.
you need a hug.
Yeah, it really misses The Rock. That's what really is missing.
It really does. It needs that foil for Dom, because like Dom and John Cena wasn't a good enough foil for Dom.
Well, because the logic
like The Rock
of his
is.
brother that has never been mentioned in any film at all once. Suddenly, and then the story they gave him that, well, basically, he got butthurt and then he went off and became a super spy. I'm just like, what?
Right.
That's dumb. That's the best you could come up with?
This is how they try to come back, turn it all back around again from the whole, like, how did they go from street racers to super spies all of a sudden? Oh, it's because of Jacob this entire time.
And no one's bothered to mention him. Nobody.
Right.
Nobody. Not Letty, it was really, really dumb. I'm like, couldn't he just have been like his dad had a half brother and he ignored that kid or he left that kid or something? I mean, make it so that's why he's spiteful against the two of them, because at least that would make sense. But this is just, dumb.
Dumb.
All right. Well, it's time to move on from that. And we're going to finish up with Movie Innuendo. We haven't played this in a while. If you haven't listened to this before, it's probably a good time to just never listen. Just walk away. Walk away clean.
No, it's so fun.
Walk away clean. What we're going to do is each of us have 2 innocent lines from any Christmas film this time, and we're going to deliver them as sexual innuendo. Now, the rules are you can't change the line. It's got to be the line that was written. It's just the delivery makes it naughty. Now we're going to go John, me, Amanda, and Troy. So John, take it away and tell us the movie or that you're referencing to, so we know, please.
Oh, if you don't know this line, I'm really sorry.
Or TV
for you.
special, whatever.
Looks great, little full, lot of sap.
I don't know it.
Clark Griswold.
Oh.
Christmas Vacation.
I don't think you did it naughty enough, man. I'm just letting you know. I didn't. No
What?
tingles. I got no tingles from that. None.
That's the naughtiest line that is out there in the world.
Just wait.
I don't. Oh, okay. Well, mine's from It's a Wonderful Life. Beautiful film. Strange, isn't it? Each man's life touches so many other lives. When he isn't around, he leaves an awful hole, doesn't he?
I almost used that one. Oh, it's my turn. I forgot. Okay, so mine is from Elf, and it's Buddy who says this line. Santa! Oh my God! Santa's coming!
Jesus!
Oh my God! Wow! Wow! Okay, can we go home now?
Thank you.
That wins.
I think we're done. I know I'm done. You know what I'm saying?
That's what she said.
Troy, go ahead.
This is from the Child special, dear to everyone's heart, classic old movie, Frosty the Snowman. There's a certain magic that comes with the very first snow.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's, you know what? Amanda's was a tough act to follow, but that was pretty
That
close.
was naughty. John,
That was pretty
back
close.
to you.
You never look at Frosty the same way.
Is that why he's white? Oh my God.
Oh, my.
Oh, man. Which one do I use? Okay.
Name it first.
Name the movie first.
This is from How the Grinch Stole Christmas, 1966. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas perhaps means a little bit more in the butt. Sorry, I had to cheat.
You did. It was worth it, though.
All right. Mine's from Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight?
You got so aggressive at the end.
I did. Sorry.
Like you're going in for that final thrust.
Sorry.
Images deleted.
Okay, so mine is from, let's see here. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a tiger by his toe. If y'all just let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Okay, mine is from Love Actually.
Oh.
I don't know where it is. I'll have a poke around.
Nice.
Well done.
Nice. I think Amanda just wins off of
Thank
both of these.
you.
I'll let Trey finish. He had that dirty Frosty. Oh, wait, that's a Wendy's treat.
This
Delicious
is from
Wendy's treat.
The Holiday.
Is that right next to Dirty Sanchez?
Stop.
Stop.
The Holiday. Okay, I know what you're... Okay, I know that
Yeah,
movie.
The Holiday.
Yep.
It's Christmas Eve, and we are going to celebrate being young and being alive.
In the butt.
I can hear like an older woman saying a line like this, trying to be very sexual and seductive for sure.
I
Wah, wah,
think Amanda
wah.
wins. I would say.
I
That's
think
my
Amanda
vote.
just called me an old woman.
I think I did.
Yeah, what's your votes, guys? Who won?
Oh, Amanda's first one was great.
Amanda told
Thank
me.
you
Doesn't
so
matter.
much.
Either one of Amanda's wins.
Either one. John's just like, we're done, hands down. And apparently there's going to be some people that might be rewinding this podcast. Think well about that, Amanda.
I don't want to think about it.
We're done. That's it. That's the podcast. So each of you say goodbye to however you want to say goodbye to people.
Keep your loved ones close. Keep your enemies closer. Goodbye, 2021.
I don't know what to say to follow something so dark and dour, but I guess just, I don't know, keep some optimism for the next year. And at the very least, you'll know that you'll still have the Hollywood Outsiders.
Thanks for listening and have a fucking great holiday.
I knew it! I knew someone would!
What a dick. And in the immortal words of the esteemed Christian Slater, hugs and kisses on all your pink parts. Have a great holiday. We'll see you in 2022. Mwah. Take care.
Not your pink parts.